How would you define self-care?
Ooh.
Good job.
So,
Do you feel like it's been a journey?
yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I was in a journey. I didn't even know it.
How do you define self-care?
Self-care is stopping everything and checking yourself.
Taking a time to get away from everything and focusing on me.
Making sure you're healthy, putting yourself first.
Above anyone else or anything.
Self-care is doing what's best for you, even if it can be a little
Selfish.
When they say generically speaking self-care, I love my lashes.
Dressing up. Not saying you're going out for compliments for people, but more of like making yourself feel good.
My grandpa's Jamaican, so he's kind of frugal with his money. I'm like that, so I don't tend to spend my money.
Before I used to be cheap with myself, like, I don't really need it.
Yeah.
You know, but now I'm just like, oh, give it to me, thank you.
Doing something that brings out the best in you genuinely, truly, and it doesn't feel forced.
It's kind of hard to put a standard definition to it.
Everybody's different. Some people say it's a euphoric feeling. Some people say, I'm at peace when I'm playing basketball. Or I'm at peace when I'm sleeping.
There's so many different elements of it. There's skincare, there's wellness, physical, fitness.
Food is my thing. I love food.
I have a punching bag in my backyard.
I don't hesitate to spend the money on food. Mentally, staying off of social media sometimes. It can be toxic.
I work at a gym, so as far as self-care, making sure I work out every day.
Dancing is my form of self-care. Like, I could be stressed out, I have an exam, and I will literally go to the party because I'm like, I need to relax, I'm too stressed.
There are times where you have to leave frustration, and I go to that, but then there's also some times where you have to have sit-down conversations with the wife and say, hey, here's where I'm at, here's what's going on in my life.
Expressing yourself, telling people how you feel.
I had to learn how to say no.
I go out my way for other people, but I always come through for other people and I don't come through for myself.
I used to write in like a journal, but then I stopped.
Taking time to do things on my own. Like, I would go to a restaurant by myself.
I remember before college, I'm like, I'm not going to eat by myself. Like, who does that?
I was just like, oh, I don't got time for this. We can look in the mirror and do this. So I could go to sleep.
I think before I'd be like, oh, like, you want to go to the store with me? Now I'm just kind of like, oh, you want to come? Okay.
Straight out of high school, I went to college. From college, I took maybe a few months off, went into grad school. So now my self-care looks like doing nothing. Like this whole pandemic honestly did make me more of a loner.
Like, as soon as coronavirus happened, I immediately knew that this was gonna be like a new chapter or something that I'm gonna have to face with myself that I didn't even know.
Back then, there was a hardline masculinity of not showing your emotions, not showing how you feel. Oftentimes, when you don't break down your pride, it leads to self-destruction.
There was one point where I constantly was comparing myself to people. And even now I have to catch myself.
First and foremost, it's essential to keeping you sane. I feel like I've met a lot of people who don't really have a form of self-care.
Usually I don't indulge in self-care until I'm like, ooh, I'm burned out.
For me, it's more of a spiritual experience. Like, okay, well, in my life, like, what was I supposed to learn from this to where I'm now reaching the best version of myself?
You striving to better your whole self, where you're taking the time to meditate, to journal, to pray.
I define self-care as an individual who is self-aware of their blind spots and their triggers.
You encouraged me to chop off my hair, and I did it. And I was like, wow, why did I listen to her? So,
You said, why did you listen?
Why did I listen to her?
I do feel like my energy just literally gets uplifted once I talk to my friends.
Even though I have a lot of great friends, I'm not one to just call a friend and tell them all my problems. Like, whoever you're venting to, they have to be emotionally stable to accept all that you're giving to them.
Being in therapy helps out a whole lot. She's been like a great help, like as far as like guiding me like in my process alongside with my spiritual walk.
After a bad breakup, I realized that I was chasing after people's love other than just loving on myself.
I used to practice a lot of self-care before I had my daughter.
Like, after you give birth, like, people don't talk about postpartum and like the emotions that you go through after you give birth to your child. I really had to relearn how to love the person that I was becoming. But it forced me to love myself. It forced me to think of myself as beautiful.
You just gotta show people that this is who I am. This is what makes me who I am.
And everybody has their own pace. If I'm making progress against myself, then I'm successful.
It's a never-ending journey, self-care and self-love. So